Stop treating me like a child.
Well, then stop behaving like one.
HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. During our last two shows, we've been discussing the feminist response to Title IX reform and listening and responding to one of the speakers from this year's Title IX conference. We kinda made some predictions. I thought we were pretty harsh until we began listening to the presentation and wow, we were really not. Oddly, it got me thinking about vampires. I'm not talking about the book and movie blood-sucking type, or even emotional vampires. These aren't that innocent. No, this kind will suck up your whole life. If you've had one attach herself to you, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Psychology Today published an article in 2011 that lists 5 types of emotional vampires. The narcissist must be the center of attention and becomes aloof and dismissive when not. The victim is always in distress and desperately needs you, but won't use any of your advice. You know, it's not about the nail. The controller is all about you. You needing her to decide everything for you, that is. The constant talker can't shut up about herself and doesn't seem to understand personal space either. The drama queen never has minor issues. Everything she's confronted with is a catastrophe, and if it's not, she can fix that. Now, imagine all of those subtypes made subtle, combined into one person, and introduced very slowly over time to incrementally chip away at the boundaries between your vampire's, friends, interests, and your humanity, one sympathetic hand-holding moment at a time. One how awful at a time. One late-night phone call at a time. One small favor at a time. One small crisis at a time. One hold on, I'm coming at a time. Then you're a godsend. An angel, right? Nobody seems to understand what your friend has been going through. How can anyone treat her like this? You know exactly what's going on because she has told you all about it. You know exactly who is mistreating her, too. Every conversation has a clearly pictured villain in it, so you know who should bear the brunt of your judgment. You know exactly how to feel about her experiences because she's shown you in the past how upsetting it is for her if you don't show the right flavor of sympathy, when you can get a word in edgewise between the loops and screaming drops on the emotional roller coaster you never seem to be able to disembark when she's around. Then one day you're listening to her tell you about her latest conflict with her mother, her boyfriend, her boss. Someone has had an expectation of her that would be perfectly reasonable under normal circumstances, but has failed to take into consideration that she is a special case. She's delicate. She doesn't deal with these kind of things. She's in recovery from her latest crisis. A crisis which is only handicapping because of her special emotional needs, or because it hit so soon after a previous crisis, or one of 1,000 other reasons that, when given in conjunction with all of her other excuses, make perfect sense, but only ever seem to happen to her. You know because you've heard all of them, one at a time, over the course of a long, slow descent into relationship hell. And you just woke up and smelled your ass bacon in it. You can't even remember when that cool, confident, and interesting person your friend was when you first met her turned into this helpless child. You know you didn't sign adoption papers. You sure as hell wouldn't have tolerated this behavior at the beginning of your relationship. But now you are. Because it happened slowly over time, you didn't see it coming. But you've allowed a soul-sucking, vacuous life leech to attach herself to you, and she is in the process of eating you alive. You've been swallowed by the blob. So what happens when you try to extract yourself? With an ordinary narcissist or one of the other borderline subtypes, there would usually be some form of temper tantrum, wailing and gnashing of teeth, gossip-mongering, vengeful acts, maybe even violence. You'd know exactly how offended your emotional vampire is at your boundary enforcement because you'd be told in no uncertain terms what you were doing to her. Not so when you're dealing with the blob. You think you can just reestablish your boundaries, one inappropriate demand at a time? Try it and watch as her amorphous elastic puerility reshapes itself to find a way around, under, or over that line. Draw yourself away and you'll find tendrils of dependence desperately clinging to you where you never expected, as she completely ignores any rejection of her behavior and goes on as if nothing has changed. In her mind, no boundary has been established, and you are still on the hook for, well, whatever. You find this out the next time she contacts you, reminding you that you were going to do her some favor you distinctly remember telling her that, no, you weren't. Put your foot down and the blob will wrap around your leg and squeeze. As with the movie Blob, cold is the only thing that works against such a frenemy. The cold shoulder, that is. Unless you put your relationship on ice permanently, she will eventually consume you, and she won't even spit out the bones. Title IX advocates speaking this year on policy and practical application sound exactly like the blob. It might be due to the movement's predatory, exploitative nature. It might be that their intention is to see what they can get away with while waiting out the current administration for a chance to undo all its reforms. It might be that after decades of blatant, overt gynocentrism, they are completely unaccustomed to being told no. Whatever the reason, feminist Title IX advocates seem to be going on as if nothing has changed. They continue to level the same complaints, offer the same arguments, and toss the same demands in the wake of federal policy changes that have set boundaries contradicting all of them. Speaking as if no court rulings have indicated that due process violations will not be tolerated, these advocates continue to push the same old gender-biased narratives, use the same emotional appeals, and promote the same discriminatory campus policies. As in a relationship with the blob, it appears that setting limits and expectations isn't going to affect the behavior of campus feminists. They seem intent on ignoring the reality before them, rejecting it, and responding instead to the one they want. It's going to take the same kind of chill to end that. A complete divorce between feminist dogma and federal policy to end campus discrimination against accused male students. One must wonder, though, how long will it take for them to notice after they've been put out in the cold? This week on HBR Talk, we're going to finish listening to and commenting on the Title IX speech we began trudging through last week. You can tune in Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern via the link in the low bar, or find other viewing and listening options for that time or later on BadgerFeed.com.